What's up, guys? Today I'm chilling instead of the computer, and today we're just gonna have a talk. Yeah, that's right. Because one of the subscribers said that I should make a video on how to learn English, and I think I'm kind of gonna relate it to, how I learn English, but also why I don't feel like talking right away is the best way. Some polyglots like Benny Lewis, I think it's pronounced, the Irish polyglot, he says in his book, like, he recommends start speaking right away from day one. And I don't necessarily agree. Um, I think I relate more to an old soul like Steve Kaufman. I don't know how to pronounce it. I hope I didn't say something weird. Anyways, he focused on language learning, reading a lot, and I think that's. I don't necessarily start reading because I feel that the materials are kind of boring. Like I don't like to read children's books and stuff like that. I like to get into the topics um, that I enjoy or real conversations. That's why I enjoy Asimov so much because they break down very good. The sound is slowly and keep increasing along with my lessons. So I'm gonna make a little analogy because I learned English not speaking. So the day they decided that I wanted to speak English, I could already talk a bit. So I was studying English in Spain, in Barcelona, since I was a kid. But the education for languages here, like the obligatory languages, are so bad. What I mean is that the class is actually in Catalan or in Spanish, but about English. So what I did was actually I barely passed my English test. It was very hard for me. And I wasn't interested. I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't learn anything. I couldn't even, I was 17 and I couldn't even talk about the future. Like the word will, I remember that I learned it when I was 17 or so. So what changed, right? Um, so I started to get into music. I started to listen a lot of Psalm 41, Blink 182, and well, I just wanted to understand those lyrics. I started to follow some TV shows, and I wanted to learn it in the native language because the directors and the producers they hire these actors not only because they're appearance but also because their voice and so on, right? And how they act, how they express. I wanted to be able to speak English, and I remember I even pretended to talk English with myself in front of the mirror, right? Um, so I started to study on my own. That was way back in 2000, I don't know, 8, 2009, or even before that. Because one of my dreams was to go to live to Canada. Um, so I started to study on my own with TV shows, with How I Met Your Mother, with subtitles. And as I show with my Swedish video where I just mimic what they say, I started to doing exactly the same. I started to just repeat out loud a couple of times, writing down the words that I didn't understand and trying to make sentences for myself with those words. So it wasn't passive listening on those TV shows. It was more like active because I stopped at every line, and it was a TV show that I thought it was funny, and I just still remember so many lines I memorized. And suddenly, the songs that I was listening to started to make more sense. And back then, I was working in a warehouse, and I asked for an unpaid leave of 6 months, and I went to Canada to study English. I did. It was quite intensive. I was doing between 6 and 4 hours a day. But once I went there, they put me already in the intermediate high level, not totally advanced, but kind of intermediate advanced. And I was the first surprise there, probably the only surprise, because they made me speak for this little test when I arrived, and I was able to speak. I was very bumpy. I'm still very bumpy, but I could communicate. I was using the past tense, the future, and so on, and I understood what they told me. It was such a motivation boost, I think. And like a couple of months later, I was already in advanced level in those academy. IH is International Housing is the company. I paid so much money for that because it was like 6 month intensive English class. But um, I realized that I had learned in my house with the TV shows the English, and I was also starting to read a lot. And I didn't talk to anybody. Um, I was just reading a lot in English. I think since then I didn't even read any Spanish book. Everything was in English. So I was translating the words that I didn't understand once in a while, and just like I'm doing it with Swedish, right? And so I got a lot of input, but I didn't do any output. That's the word, yeah. So that's why I'm trying to mimic this process with the other languages that I'm learning. So first I try to get the basics, but instead of going to class, I learn the basic vocabulary with the 625 words that are more common. I do the 100 lessons of Asimil because they mention the basic grammar, and I think that's the base. After that base, my plan is to get a lot of input, which means reading, mimicking sentences, and so on. The output, it's gonna come as last step. So that's my process that I'm following. Speaking from day one, it might work for some people because we have different experiences on how we learn and how we memorize, how we remember. But for me, it just doesn't work. I feel I'm motivated for speaking from day one because it's very frustrating. I just want to say something and it doesn't come out, right? So I rather talk a little bit bumpy and then I'm like, whoa, I actually can make myself understand, and especially I understand because the first step for me is understand others. If I don't understand what they are saying to me, it doesn't matter whatever I say because it's not gonna be aligned with the conversation, right? So that's my process. First, Anki and Asimil. So a lot of input, basic input, and memorizing sentences, and especially the most useful words. And the sounds, they stick a lot that way. Then a lot of input with reading and listening and so on. And then the last step is speaking for me. Because I'm more focused nowadays it's motivating for me to be able to understand and read books in languages that I didn't know just a few months ago or something like that. With Swedish, for example, I did go to class, and that was very good class, but it was a very low pace. Pace, right? Yeah. So it was quite low, very chilled class, but it got me some good basics, and the teacher was very nice. So that was also getting the basics, but in a different way and very slowly. And then to advance more, I'm now in the process of getting a lot of input. I started to speak already. I go to language cafes and we only speak in Swedish like once a week. And that's pretty good. I'm motivated because I feel like even though I talk bumpy, I can understand most of what they are telling me. But now I'm listening to a lot of podcasts, reading once in a while, but I feel that I still need some input because at the end of the day, they can sell you any kind of methods, but the important thing is the hours that we spend in that language. Like, you can be more or less effective. Like with Anki and Asimil, I feel I'm super effective, but nothing can replace the hours, how the brain is wired after it spent 10,000 hours of listening a language, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about repetition, but it's up to us if we stick with those repetitions, if we're motivated about it, if we make it count, and if we are effective with the repetitions, especially if we are dynamic and we do it in a funny way, right? So that's my insight of learning languages. I got some hate comments in one of the few videos that oh, you're not a polyglot, how dare you giving advice? I'm not giving advice. I'm just saying, how do I think about this and how I'm approaching, like in this, for instance, French right now. So yeah, I was feeling like making a little chill video with you guys because we've passed the 300 subscribers. That's kind of a lot. And I was thinking about making a video also about saying that you guys should make your own YouTube channels if you are learning languages, because for me, one of the things, the only thing we need to learn languages more than being effective or less effective is to stick with it, to do our daily routines. Not 2 hours a day, but even if it's 15 minutes, right? It's more, that's the most important thing. And that's why I recommend making YouTube channels, even though if you are not a polyglot and you are not a show off or whatever, because sometimes it's motivating to go back to see where we were at. And it's motivating. And sometimes I just don't want to study, and then I just watch one of my own videos. I'm like, huh, that's kind of cool. And then I just want to study. So yeah, that's how I learn English, guys. That's how I approach language learning. And I would try to make less computer videos and have a little bit of talks with you guys so you can see my baldness from up close. But anyways, I hope you have a good one and that was worth something. Thank you.